Hey there, and welcome to The Aspiring Professional. I am your host, Michael Simonton, and each week I will be joined by a professional to talk about some of the traits and qualities that guided them to their success. Through this, we hope to provide some insight and advice that all of the aspiring professionals out there can take to heart to help propel them along their journey to success. Thank you for joining me. And if you like the podcast, don't forget to hit subscribe so that you can get more of this awesome content every week. Enjoy.
Bam, we're live.
No way, sir. Good morning. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Sipping on my beautiful cup of Joe. Loving every sip. Something fantastic. So, like I said, the purpose of this is going to be to really provide some sort of foundation and understanding for the up and coming professionals who are trying to wrap their heads around what to expect, what others who have been where they are say is important, and just give them something to learn from and some good information to pull from. So without further ado, like my first question is, just give us a little background on yourself. Who are you? What do you do? How'd you get there?
All right. So my name is Silas Manher. I'm originally from Wisconsin. I grew up in the North Woods of Wisconsin, working for my dad in his cabinet shop. I was homeschooled. I'm the oldest of 8 kids. I'm now living in New York City amidst the coronavirus epidemic. So I'm stuck at home now. Kind of a little bit of background for my career aspect is I didn't really know what I wanted to do for a long time. I still kind of don't. I guess you could say I never fully understand what I'm going to be doing in the future, obviously. But kind of growing up, for a long time, I was pretty sure I wanted to take over my dad's business. Ultimately, it just didn't work out. I got to a point where I didn't want to do that. So I ended up just moving out and took a bunch of jobs. I was doing landscaping. I was the lead gardener at a church where I grew up going to church. And I just worked really hard because that's the only thing I knew how to do at that point. But I got really lucky, right? I had a really good mentor, and it kind of introduced me to some other people who also became good mentors of mine. And then ultimately, I got an opportunity to sell insurance. I sold insurance for a year and a half. It was not something I ever saw myself doing when I was growing up, for sure. But it's something that I do not regret whatsoever. It was a very good experience of learning. Kind of the background on that was I told myself, all right, I needed some winter work because summer work, what I was doing was all summer work. It was all, lawn care and stuff like that. In Wisconsin, there is none of that during the winter, obviously. So I found this opportunity. I said, what the heck, let's try it. I got my insurance license and I went forward with the idea that I would make some good money doing it. I was pretty sure that I would mature a lot faster because at this time I was only 18 years old.
Okay.
I was pretty sure that it would help me to mature because I'd be dealing with really tough things like talking about people's potentially dying, right? And that's not a nice thing. And I figured sales experience would be good because at that time of my life, I was kind of, and by the way, if I'm going too long, if you want to have more expounding on anything, just let me
No,
know.
we're good. Keep going. This is your
Um,
time to answer.
if at that time I was pretty interested in having a business at some point, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So my godfather, who was my boss while I sold insurance, he told me, he said, listen, you're going to need sales experience no matter what you do, right? And he's
Mm-hmm.
a great salesman, so he knew what I was interested in, and he knew how to get me interested in the job, so I give him credit for that. But the point is, he said, you're going to need sales experience, and financial understanding is a good thing to have no matter what business you run in the future. So why not do this now? Learn a lot of things, but get paid to do it instead of going to college, right? And I wasn't really ever set on going to college. I really wasn't sure. So I said, okay, I'll do it. Did it for a year and a half. About a year into it, I just realized I didn't really like it. I was really good at it. I was number one in my class of agents. So there's about 28 to 30 people who started the same month as I did, which was
Yeah.
December of 2017. And I was the youngest of all of them. I was 18 years old. The next guy who was closest to my age was 21. And then there's a lot of middle-aged guys all the way up to a dude who was 70 doing it. So I was able to beat them, I guess you could say, if you want to put it in a sports perspective, right? I made the most money of all of those guys in my first year, but it was really due to the training I had, right? It wasn't really anything I had. I just had the willingness to go forward. And then after insurance, I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't exactly thrilled with the idea of continuing to do that. So I ended up having, it's kind of a long story, but I ended up getting into marketing. Ended up joining Praxis around the same time. And now I did marketing for about 8 months. And now I'm working as a headhunter for renewable energy companies. So I work specifically in the renewable energy sector.
Nice.
And I'm loving my job. So.
Heck yeah. Okay, so then here real quick, because you mentioned Praxis here. A lot of people I'm going to assume don't know what that is. Do you mind giving me just a quick minute recap on what it is? Just there's members of the audience that could have that question.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say that Praxis is really hard to define, first of all. But second of all, it's a community of like-minded people, and like-minded in the sense that we don't necessarily want to just follow the standard path that's set out for most young individuals nowadays, high school, college, and then maybe some more college, and then, you go to get a job. It's for the people who kind of just, they want to do something a little different, or they don't see the value of college maybe. And some people, I don't want to discredit it, some people have gone through the program who have gone to university and they've really enjoyed having done both. But the point is, it's about a 6-month boot camp, depending on how you structure it and how your personal disposition towards it goes. And then a 6-month apprenticeship, right, with a young startup. And there's different size startups too. It's not always young startups. It's sometimes more mature. But the point of it is 6 months of learning how to create value. And I would say even more than that, learning how to document that you can create value, because most Praxians already create value. They just don't document it. Then 6 months of implementing it and really learning and essentially testing whether or not you like the job you have, and then continuing to experiment and going forward. And then obviously the community is huge. Community is how I got my job.
Right on. Yeah. And the network, any network is huge, like networking, and it's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. In many cases is true. Yeah. So going back to the original point though, you mentioned hardworking, intelligent, and there's a third one, but I'm missing it right now. But what would you say would be like 3 main character traits that you would attribute your success to, and that you would encourage young professionals to try to hone in on and to develop?
I would say, I want to make sure I get the right 3, because there's a lot of things that could be thrown out there. And it's interesting that you're asking this, because I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine who's just graduating high school, and he's wondering what he should do, whether he should go to college or do a sales job or something, right? I would say that a lot of people, so just a precursor, a lot of people either think that college will solve their problems or that it won't. Like they're kind of one way or the other. By going and having a degree, you're going to have job security. I've heard that a lot of times. And I think that people forget that there is no pill for laziness. There's no fix for laziness. So college will not assure you a job. It's your work ethic that gets you through college that will ultimately ensure you a job, specifically in times like we have now with a kind of an economic downturn. Who knows? It could be the next Great Depression. Most likely it will be. I would say that it comes down to being likable, having really good work ethic, and probably loyalty. I feel like loyalty would be the one I would throw in there on the top, because in times like this, right, if you've been working for a company for a number of years, you say there's 2 people, Joe and Jimmy, and Joe's been working at the company. He went to college for 4 years. He's been working at the company for 2, but Jimmy started right out of high school. So he's been working there for 6 years, okay? In this economic downturn, Jimmy probably knows more about the company, lives and breathes it. He probably knows most of the same things, or maybe more of the necessary things, I guess you could say, than Joe does. But Joe has a degree. Which person do you think the company is going to consider letting go in a hard time like that?
Well, I'd say Joe, because not only does he have less experience in the degree, which means they are probably paying him more. Except, Jimmy's got 6 years of experience, so who's to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Like, it could be both ways, right? But ultimately, I think it comes down to the people who you have the work ethic part of it, right? If you're willing to work hard, right? If Jimmy sees this and says, "Hey, I'm actually making the same amount as Joe over here, but I've also been with the company longer. I'm going to talk to my boss and say, listen, I understand things are tough. I'm willing to exhibit my work ethic to work the same amount I've been working, but for less money in order to keep the company going." So I guess, I mean, that could maybe be considered a lack of entitlement. I don't know how you would consider that, but like how that would be translate into a virtue. But
Okay,
my point is that willingness to work hard in tough times, I guess you could say.
gotcha. So hardworking. So the loyalty really, it caught me a bit. It's almost as if when you described it, as you're saying, to be excited and to love the company that you're working for, more so much than being loyal to them in so much as you're sticking with them. But I think a lot of people have this misguided notion of loyalty, and so that's where that get mistracked. But I do think those are some three great points.
So one thing about loyalty, the reason I brought that one up is not because I've worked for in the past, let's see, it's 2020. I've worked for, since I graduated, I've worked for a lot of people. I think 6 people. I've had
Okay.
3 real jobs and a bunch of other small part-time jobs, right? The one thing that I get as far as the loyalty is concerned is that the people I worked for, like my mentors and stuff, to this day, they are still, even the people I only worked part-time for in the summer, they will give me good recommendations and I stay in touch with them, right? I worked really hard for them and now I'm loyal to them by staying in touch with them because they essentially gave me a shot and they
Yep.
made introductions for me to people that it's important for me to be loyal to them and to stay in touch with them. And maybe I'm using the wrong word, but I feel like loyalty is the one I want to use there.
Yeah, no, it makes sense now. That last question really clarified things. So thank you. But yeah, no, and with that in mind, going back those couple of years since you've graduated, is there any one lesson that you wish you had learned back then that would help you get to where you are today?
I thought about this because you had forwarded this question prior to our meeting, and it's actually a very tough question. I like the question; it's a good question.
Thank you.
I would say it's probably a toss-up. I would have either said to myself 4 years ago, because 4 years ago is I would have been 17, so I would have said probably would have said everything's gonna be all right. Just go with the flow, kind of like let God lead you. Or I would have also said to myself, check your pride at the door.
Okay.
I've made a number, I guess, of all the mistakes that I've made in the past 4 years. I've done a good job, I'd say, overall with most of my jobs. But like ultimately, there was kind of an underlying, especially for the first couple years of my professional career, I kind of had this sense of arrogance that it wasn't good. And it kind of developed because I sold insurance, right? Because I was good. I made a lot of money for a young person my age in my area, right?
Yeah.
My part of the country. So like, I remember I was talking before I took my new job here in New York. I was talking with my old boss back in Wisconsin about the past 8 months at the marketing firm and everything. And he was like, you've changed a lot. You really have. And he was like, we were reminiscing about the first time we spoke to each other about a job potentially, right? Because I had met him at a networking event, told him about my tea business and a little bit about marketing because he was doing marketing. We spoke for 5 or 10 minutes, right? And he gave me a card. And about a month later, he called me or contacted me on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, do you want to grab coffee?" And I didn't have a job at the time, and I was pretty sure that he wanted to talk to me about a job offer. I don't know why it was, but we sat down at Starbucks, and the first thing out of my mouth was, "So what's your offer?" So I was kind of arrogant at the time, but obviously I recovered from that. Or I sure hope I have. So point is, I would have told myself, check your pride at the door daily, if not multiple times a day.
But that is a great lesson too. That is actually extremely invaluable. Because in many instances, it's that pride, like the arrogance, the pride comes before the fall. It's that chip on our shoulder where we think we're better than everyone else that really sets us back and holds us from reaching our potential. So
Yeah.
I think that's a great lesson. With all that, did coming to where you are today, did your expectations match with your realities, or like, because you went from the sales insurance to the marketing for a bit, and then now you're a headhunter. How's that working out for you?
I would say definitely not expectations. If I were to look back, like when I first graduated, my expectations versus where I am now is very different. For a while, up to graduation, I was really considering becoming a religious. Okay. And
Okay.
that changed shortly after I graduated. And then after that, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like, I really haven't had a clear vision of what I wanted, that I actually wanted, until probably the past few months. But I would say that overall, my thought was, hey, at some point, I'm going to be a business owner. And
Okay.
I was thinking that it was pretty likely, I thought, I'd become like a construction person. I built houses because that's something I wanted to do when I was growing up. I quickly realized that manual labor is not something I can do my whole life. Like, I couldn't do it. So my expectations versus reality is far different. I feel like reality has been much better than my expectations, to be honest.
Okay, that's awesome. I mean, that is exactly what we want to hear. That sounds like a dream. How often do you hear the story of someone who has his good expectations, it sounds like, to begin with, and then they hit the moon? You aim for the stars, aim for the moon, and you hit the stars.
Yep.
So that's fantastic. I'm happy to hear that for you. So then, my last question on this segment was going to be, like, if you were talking to a young professional today, what piece of advice would you give them to really help them accelerate their career, to maybe figure their life out, to give them some reassurance for the future?
I would probably tell them I'd probably try to tell them a lot of things, because I always have lots of thoughts. But I would most likely say, try to figure out what you don't know, and then find somebody, like proactively find the right person to help you fill that gap.
Okay.
Because too often we go through, like, most people don't know what they don't know, right? This is what happened with me in insurance. And the only reason I use this example is because my boss used it. He said, listen, this is the 4 stages you're going to go through in this job, right? You don't know what you don't know right now. You don't, like, first of all, you don't even have most of the market knowledge. You don't know what you're doing wrong. Eventually, through practice and failing over and over again, and me having feedback with you, you're going to know what you don't know. And then you can work on to, what's the third step? No, you don't know. You know what you don't know, and then you know what you know. I can't remember the exact steps. I just know
Okay.
at the beginning, you don't know, right? You have no clue what you don't know. And I've seen this in a lot of my friends, because I've had really great opportunities to speak with people, and to a degree, I've been willing to have people give me feedback and say, hey, listen, you made a mistake here. And the willingness to get over my pride and, like, oh, blah, 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 that was rude. Like, you shouldn't have said that to me. But point is, willingness to get over that and hear their advice, because then they've told me what I didn't know. And I've seen a lot of my peers, they have no clue what they don't know. And it's like, even me, and I have very little experience. I'm sure I'll learn more in the future. But like, it's just so sad that I only have 1 or 2 years more of experience than them. But yet they're so oblivious to what and I'm sure I was the same way, to be honest. But
that's how it goes, But to your point, though, exactly. You don't know what you don't know, and there's no such thing as good or bad feedback. It's all just feedback, and you have to, like, check your ego at the door. You have to understand that even if these angry customers are yelling at you, or client hangs up on you over the phone, cusses you out because he doesn't want to be bothered right now, you are still learning a valuable lesson there.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many things, like with this new job. Obviously, I tried to go into it taking my knowledge from going into new jobs in the past and saying, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to make sure I learn the ropes first before I try to shake the boat. Then I'm going to make sure that like I remember I will succeed at this. Because to me, the worst part of any job, new job, is being a rookie. I hate being a rookie. I'm afraid of not understanding. So like going into a new market where I didn't even understand, like I had no knowledge of how a wind farm was built off the shore or even onshore 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. And now I'm trying to get people, I need to understand the client's needs to build that wind farm. And I got to find a person and make sure that they're good for it, that can do the job. So like I'm getting better at it. But the point is I went in with like, okay, I'm going to try my best. But even then, even when you prepare yourself, I still had a couple calls where like the guy was like, you've bothered me a whole bunch of times because he miscommunicated to me when I originally called him. It was a candidate. And I wrote down what he said. And when I called him later, he said, listen, I told you I'm going to call you back, blah, blah, blah. And I was really like, you know, you just get emotional about it. You hang up the phone and you're kind of mad at him. And my boss is like, listen, there's no sense in fighting back. It's not going to accomplish anything. And like, I'm a very, like, I do not like confrontation. So I get pretty worked up. And he's just like, just let it go. It happens. So the point is try to constantly remember it's okay to make mistakes.
Absolutely. You know, and that's this part of life. We're all just figuring this out. Hopefully, you know, with these answers and your perspective on things, we can help some other people figure their life out. So Silas, thank you so much for your time today, sir. It's been a pleasure, and we should do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely have to do it again, Michael. I appreciate it.
Gotcha. And if anyone wants to find you,
oh yeah,
where can do that?
You can follow me on Instagram at The Catholic Businessman, Twitter at Silas Manher. I have a website, silasmanher.com. There's lots of places you can find me. I'm sure you can put them in the description.
Well, can do. Well, thank you, Silas.
All right.
Catch you next time.
Take it easy.